Hi, everyone, and welcome back to MVP's Meet the Author. Today, we have Dr. Shannon and Mariam Najeeb with us to discuss their paper, Cannabidiol Corrects Sleep Deficits and Reduces Spontaneous Seizures in Angelman Syndrome Model Mice. Shannon is a research associate, and Mariam Najeeb is an undergraduate research assistant working in the lab of Dr. Bing Gu in the Department of Neuroscience at The Ohio State University. Their research focuses on understanding the neural mechanisms underlying Angelman syndrome and identifying therapeutic strategies to improve neurological function. Using preclinical mouse models, electrophysiology, and behavioral analyses, they investigate how novel treatments can target both seizures and the broader neurological symptoms associated with this rare neurodevelopmental disorder.
Okay, so we'll just go ahead and start jumping into some more questions for today. So, Cannabidiol has attracted a great deal of attention for treating epilepsy, but your study goes beyond seizures and examines sleep disturbances in Angelman syndrome. Could you explain what Angelman syndrome is and what motivated you to investigate sleep and seizures as your primary outcomes?
So Angelman syndrome is a neuronal developmental disorder that about 1 in 15,000 people suffer from. It's caused by the loss of the UBE3A gene, and it sort of hijacks normal function of a healthy individual and causes intellectual disabilities, motor impairment, epilepsy, and sleep disturbances. In sleep alone, it causes frequent nighttime wake-ups, difficulty falling asleep, and just an overall reduction in an individual's sleep quality. So you can imagine the burden that would put on an individual dealing with Angelman syndrome, but not just that individual, but their caretaker as well. So epilepsy and sleep disturbances are among the most impactful aspects of the disease, but treatment for both are still limited to today. CBD, as we all know, has already been pretty well established as an anti-seizure medication. So in this study, we had a great opportunity to treat both of those symptoms at once. Sleep is just incredibly essential for memory consolidation, brain recovery, and overall normal neuronal activity. So with the ability to restore that deficit while also reducing those seizures, that could have a much greater impact on quality of life for an individual living with the Angelman syndrome.
Great. I love that answer. Thank you so much. So one of the strengths of this work is that CBD improved several aspects of the disease biology, kind of as you were going over just before, which included REM sleep, sleep homeostasis, and spontaneous recurrent seizures. Were there any of the results that surprised you while conducting the study and writing everything up? And what do you think these findings tell us about how CBD may be acting in the brain?
Yeah, I think it's super interesting that CBD is able to target so many different aspects of epilepsy and sleep disturbances, especially for a disorder like Angelman syndrome and other neurodevelopmental disorders like it. A lot of the symptoms kind of bleed into each other, so it's very important that you're targeting every aspect of the disease and not just one aspect to truly treat the individual in the way that we would want to see in the long run with a treatment option like this. As to what this tells us about CBD and how it may be acting in the brain, it's kind of hard to say right now because our study mostly focused on like the effects of it. Is it even like a promising like therapeutic intervention that we could use? But what we can infer is that if it's like alleviating so many various different types of symptoms within this syndrome, we know that it has to be targeting multiple molecular targets within the CNS system. So this aspect of it makes it a stronger potential therapeutic intervention capable of like addressing diverse symptoms within the central nervous system, which makes it very cool for treating a lot of different disorders. But also, like looking forward, I can see why it would be tricky to kind of get looking into the mechanism of action of how it's working.
Right. And I think this study is a great example of kind of setting that groundwork to then do those kind of follow-up experiments to really dive into the mechanism. So I'm excited to see what comes.
Yeah.
So our last question for today is, Cannabidiol is already FDA approved for several forms of epilepsy. So that's what makes this work particularly exciting from a translational perspective, right? How do you see these preclinical findings informing future clinical studies in Angelman syndrome? And what evidence would you like to see in the field next?
So, like you said, CBD is already FDA approved for several severe forms of epilepsy. So that alone gives us one of our biggest advantages. CBD has a well-established and strong understanding of its safety profile and clinical use. So we didn't have to reinvent the wheel here in this study with a completely novel compound. But now we're asking whether an established therapy can be expanded to address another disorder with significant unmet clinical needs. Because sleep disturbances is one of the most challenging symptoms, seeing improvements in both sleep and epilepsy makes CBD an especially promising therapeutic candidate for clinical trials in Angelman syndrome. We personally would love to see this move in that direction in the future.
Yeah, I like Ty mentioned, I think our study, it's really unique that our study opens up a lot of questions how CBD can be beneficial for other neurodevelopmental and epilepsy-based disorders. For Angelman syndrome specifically, I think a lot more preclinical studies need to be done to really gauge, like I mentioned before, the mechanism of action of CBD. One very interesting thing that our paper wasn't able to address is Angelman syndrome is mostly common in young children, but our study was done in adult mice. So I think it would be very exciting to see a paper done in younger mice to see how CBD affects it in that different age group. And then going forward into clinical studies, seeing how CBD treatment affects young children with that prolonged treatment that they would need to alleviate some of these symptoms. So I think there's a lot of exciting avenues that can go into this. Obviously, a lot more rigorous clinical and preclinical studies need to be done to really establish the efficacy and like optimal use of CBD before it can be used as like a treatment option. So I think a lot more exciting work is going to be done with this topic.
Wow, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your paper with the field. Really, really incredible work and exciting to see. If you haven't already, to our reviewers, be sure to check out the article linked in the video description below. The paper that was featured today is one of the first featured in NPP's new briefs article type, which we created to showcase concise, high impact research and streamline rapid communication of important advances to the field. Visit the link in the description to learn more about this new article type. As always, feel free to comment or reach out to any of us on social media, Blue Sky, X, or LinkedIn if you have any questions.
Thank you.